Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video you are going to learn the application initialization and termination in Quarkus. In the first part of this video you are going to learn the annotation QuarkusMain. In the second part the startup and shutdown event, and the final part of this video the annotation startup. So let's start. Let's create a new project. Click on next. Here let's put the group, the artifact ID, of course the class name like org.js.bookResource, and also the path. I'm going to put like books. Click on next. Here, let's select REST-Easy-Jackson. Then inside the tab data, let's select JDBC driver PostgreSQL, Hibernate ORM with Panache, and database connection pool. Click on next. And then click on finish. Very good. Inside the project, let me just remove REST-Easy-Jackson and also the package for the test. Very good. Now we are ready. Let's go inside the book resource. So let's modify this endpoint. I don't want to produce a text plain, but I want to add the application JSON. Let's here remove string, let's put response. Of course, let's change also the name, not hello but get. Let's remove the hello REST-Easy string. And then here I want to inject my repository. So let's type annotation inject. Then my repository will be the book repository. Let's put here repository as a name. And then let's use this repository in order to list all our books inside the database. Very good. Then let's create this book repository. Create class inside, of course, the package org.js. Very good. First, let's add the annotation application scoped. And then this book repository implements the Panache repository. With the entity book. Let's create also this entity. Create a class inside the package org.js. Very good. Let's put the annotation entity. And then let's put private long ID with annotation ID, of course, and the annotation generated value. For this book entity, let's put also the column string title. And also the column string author. Very good. Let's generate all the getter and setter method for the ID, title, and author. Good. Let's go back now inside the book repository. Let's import the book entity. Very good. And also let's go back inside the book resource. And here let's create a new variables like books, for example, and let's return the response with the status code OK with the entity books. Very good. Now let's go inside the application properties file of our project. Here it's empty, of course, and let's copy what I've done inside the project Quarkus Hibernate ORM Panache repository. Let's copy the properties, and these properties, we need these properties in order to connect with our database Postgres. In this video, I'm using the Postgres Docker image. Very good. Now let's open the terminal and type mwen compile Quarkus dev in order to run the project in development mode. Very good. Our project is up and running and listening on a port 8080. Let's try in Postman, for example. So let's try with the get/books. Very good. Our project is working, but of course we don't have any kind of books inside the database. So the first thing that I want to show you is how to use the annotation QuarkusMain. So first, inside the package, let's create a new Java class. I'm going to call it like main. And inside this class, I'm going to add the annotation QuarkusMain. Inside the main class, I'm going, of course, to create the static main method. Public static void main. Let's put also the arguments. Good. And inside this method, I'm going to type system.out.println, and here I'm going to put a message like main class is running. Then I need also to put the quarkus.run with the arguments. Very good. Now let's stop the server and let's run it again in development mode. Very good. And here you can see our string, our message, main class is running. Quarkus shows our message in the application initialization. Of course, if you want to put your business logic in the initialization of your application, it's better to refactor a little bit this part. So follow me. Here I'm going to create a new Java class, bookMain. Will be a class, I'm going to put it inside the main class. Good. And then this class should implement the Quarkus application. And of course implements the method run. And inside this method run, we can put our business logic. In this case, I'm going to put just a simple message, like for example, running the business logic. And of course, you need also to type quarkus.waitForExit. Let's go inside the terminal. Again, let's run our project in development mode. Very good, and here you can see the message is not anymore before the Quarkus banner, but exactly after. So it's the first thing that your application can do when you run the project. Very good. Now let's create a new Java class, because in this case I want to show you the second part of this video, the startup shutdown event. So let's create a new Java class. I'm going to put like book lifecycle bin. because in this class we are going to see the startup event and the shutdown event. Let's put the annotation application scoped inside our book lifecycle bin. And let's create two methods. The first one should be our startup method. So let's type void. I'm going to call it onStartup. And I'm going to pass as parameter an observer startup event. In the same way, let's write the method onStop, and let's put inside the parameter the annotation observers, and in this case ShotudownEvent. Very good. Now let me just create the logger, because I'm going to use the logger inside the onStartup and onStop method. Good. Now inside the onStartup, I'm going to put a message, like for example, the Quarkus application is starting. And I'm going to do the same things inside the onStop method. So let's put here the Quarkus application is stopping. Very good. Let's go inside the terminal now. Let's stop the server and let's run it again in development mode. And when compile Quarkus dev. Very good. And here I can see the message, the Quarkus application is starting from my book lifecycle bin, and of course the message running the business logic. If I stop the server, I can see also the Quarkus application is stopping. We should remember that the message running the business logic is inside the main class. Let me just change the message here in main class is running, for example. Very good. Now at startup time, I want to store my first book inside the database. So first let's inject our book repository. And then inside the onStart method, let's create our first book. So new book, then let's put the title for this book, first book, and then also the author. Let's put like me, for example. Very good. And then let's type repository.persist, the book. And then I want to check if my book has been stored. So I'm going to check it with the isPersistent method. And if my book has been stored, I'm going to show a message like the first book has been stored with the ID. So plus book get.id. Otherwise, I will put a message saying the first book has been not stored. Very good. Let's also not forget to put the annotation on transactional. because we are persisting an entity inside the database. And then let's again run the project in development mode. Very good. We can see here the message, the Quarkus application is starting, and also the message, the first book has been stored with the ID 1. If we go inside the Postman, if we click on send, we can see our first book with the title first book, author, and ID 1. Very good. Let's stop the server. Let's run it again in development mode because I want to show you another thing. Good, we have the same message, and the first book has been stored with ID 1, but if we click on send, I can see the same book, so I lost the first one because inside the application properties we put as a database generation drop and create. We just commented out the properties, and then inside the onStop method I'm going to delete the book that I create as the startup time. So I'm going to use the repository.deleteById, and of course I need to have the book. Let me put the book here, so like private book. Good. In this case, inside the onStop method, I can take the ID of the book, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to share different message if the book has been deleted or not. Let me copy this part, let me paste it here, let me change the if. So if, of course, in this case is deleted, the message will be the first book has been deleted. I don't need anymore the ID, of course. Otherwise, the book has been not deleted. Good. Let's put, of course, the transaction annotation because we are removing an entity inside the database. And again, let's go inside the terminal and run the project in development mode. Good, so we stored the first book. The first book has been stored. If I click on send in Postman, I'm going to receive my book with ID 2. And of course, if I'm going to stop the server, I can see here the application, the Quarkus application is stopping and the first book has been deleted. Very good. Now, in the last part of this video, I want to show you the annotation startup. So let me create a new Java class. I'm going to call it like book startup. Inside this class, I'm going to use the annotation startup. Let me just add the logger. And here I'm going to inject, of course, my book repository. and then I'm going to write a public method init. I'm going to put the annotation post construct on this method, and then inside this method I want to find my first book. So I'm going to use, of course, the repository. So I put as title first book, good, as parameter here, very good. Dot single result optional, yeah. I'm going to store this, I'm going to store it inside a variable book, and then I'm going to print a different message in order to understand if the book has been found or not. So if my book is present, because it's optional, then I'm going to type, of course, logger.info. The first book is, and then I'm going to put the title, book.get get title, of course. Else I'm going to put an error message saying the first book has not been found. Good, so we have our message. Let's go inside the terminal and let's run again the project in development mode. And here you can see all the messages. So the Quarkus application is starting, the first book has been stored, and both are coming from the book lifecycle bin. And then I can see the first book with title first book, and ID 1 has been found, so inside my book startup. And finally, of course, the message main class is running, coming from the main class using the annotation QuarkusMain. And now if we stop the server, we can see, of course, the message the Quarkus application is stopping and the first book has been deleted, coming from the book lifecycle bin. The source code of this video you can find it inside my GitHub repository, Quarkus app init term. Feel free to clone it. And thank you for watching this video. I hope you like it. Please subscribe to this channel if you want. And if you have any question or doubts, don't hesitate to contact me. You can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn and Instagram. And see you in the next video about Quarkus. Bye.